On Tuesday, April 17th, a panel discussion was held on WCU's campus. It was titled Racial Profiling, a Disservice to Justice, and was organized by student George Townsend.
And then when I started to kind of look around what was going on Western's campus, to be honest, our blacks on this campus are really not treated fairly in a lot of instances. I've worked in several different departments on campus and felt like I was being racially discriminated against. I've talked to teachers and felt like there was some type of tension between the two of us because of my color. I've been called a boy, as if this is 1963, by one of the police officers, one of the UPD police officers on campus. And actually he took what was something as common law as littering and made it something as a way to kind of humiliate me and as I saw it, put me down in a way. And it took a lot of humility at that point. And at that moment, this was last semester actually, and at that moment, that's when I kind of wanted to be an advocate for blacks on this campus.
With a positive motive and tons of support from students and faculty, the event began with a powerful poem from student Andrew Drake.
Dear Mr. Zimmerman, in the Bible, it says that the power of life and death lies in the power of your own tongue. So after understanding the action that you've done, the only words I can utter forth out of my mouth is that I forgive you. Like the words that gushed out of Jesus' mouth on the cross, forgive them for they know not what they do, leaving your heart stamped black and blue with conviction. Writing you this letter like creating an understanding is my mission that this African-American male, just like Trayvon Martin, is just like you. The power of this tongue is comparably thought of as the strongest muscle in the body, much stronger than the strongest man in the world or prison inmates who bench press consistently every day like it's their hobby. I say it blindly, that me and you, Mr. Zimmerman, are one and the same. And when Judgment Day comes, me and you will be called out in front of God under the same name. We are murderers. And after this Christian shows this hatred and aggression that I have towards you, on that day of Judgment Day, God will look at his big book and say, Andrew Drake, I have never heard of you. And that is solely because I've occasionally massacred millions with the shotgun shells that blast freely from this hollow-tipped chamber called my mouth. These bullets that are allowed to rampage freely, which consistently murder victims execution style every day, is something that derives from an area south of my mouth. It derives from this black hole of mine called a heart. And that's the place where forgiveness needs to start. See, I can't start to forgive you until I start to forgive myself. So to understand how I can give you forgiveness, I must understand how I've committed death. And that's because many times I neglect to speak life, only surfacing my flesh to make me feel right. But the only outcome is the dwindling of my soul's light. So in the battle of walking this Christ-like walk, my religion is becoming the wounded Trayvon Martin. I mean, becoming my casualty. And the saddest thing is that your actions were actually the thoughts of mine in reality. And who am I to cast stones when I have spoken the influence of death to others myself? Forgiveness. It's kind of like the biggest cow pill any man has to swallow. Once you pop it in your mouth, you only instantly grow hope that this test won't be so hollow. So the only words I can utter is that I apologize for speaking death and condemning you without even fully understanding the situation. So what I can say is that I will pray for you, that God will touch your heart with confession and introduce conviction to you. But for now, I will just continue to speak life to you and say, Dear Mr. Zimmerman, I forgive you.
Dr. Sam helps lighten the mood during a tense discussion on the Trayvon Martin case.
You know, he didn't say he was doing anything other than walking around, but he characterized his walking around as he looks like he's up to no good. And somehow he knew from far away that he was high or on something. I mean, Mrs. Zimmerman is amazing, right? Because, you know, we usually do tests for those types of things.
Racial profiling continues to be a serious threat to all races, not only African Americans, but Muslims, Arabs, Asians, Latinos.
Despite the Trayvon Martin case being the main subject, the students who attended also told their stories of being racially profiled here at WCU.
I had an issue last semester, December, early January, with a grade. And before I had approached my teacher to, take further actions with the disciplinary, how it goes, I talked to another student who had this teacher for another class. And I told them my situation, and they told me about how another female, a white female, had approached their teacher about a similar situation. It was just a different class, and got their grade changed. So I kind of had like high hopes when I went to talk to my teacher about it. And I discussed it with my teacher, sent emails, and after about 3 weeks, like it took me from December before we had the finals to a week within the first semester of spring to actually sit down and talk with him. He wouldn't like hear me out or do my grade, so I decided to, I guess, appeal the grade. So I appealed it, and I appealed it to the department head, and I followed all the instructions, but nobody would hear me out or hear my side, even though I'm pretty sure I had a strong point. But I feel that it was an issue, maybe possibly because I was black, and I know simply the other girl had the same teacher, same coincidence, and her grade got changed.